Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to be taking my brand new Sennheiser MKE600 out on a field test, and we'll get to that footage here in just a second. And right now I'm actually using that microphone to record. It's just out of frame up here. I picked this up to solve some noise problems I've had during my time-lapse feature that I'm shooting at a Tallgrass Prairie Preserve here in town. If you've watched my channel for a while, I'm about 2/3 of the way through a year-long documentary project. And our idea for the soundtrack for that project is going to combine kind of an ambient soundtrack with sounds recorded at the preserve. Well, the problem with that is the preserve, like most spaces anymore, is getting surrounded by things that make sound. There's neighborhoods nearby, a highway that runs past it. We're in the flight pattern of a nearby airport. So there's just a lot of noise. And my handheld recorders are just outmatched. I get a lot of sounds that I don't want in the soundtrack. So hopefully this solves the problem. So I bought my setup online for $300 US, and it also came with a shock mount that wasn't part of the original kit and a 20-foot long cable. Before I get out into the field, let's do a quick unboxing. Decided I need to up my game for audio capture outside. The best way to do that is I'm often in some noisy environments. I add a shotgun microphone to my collection. So I ordered this Sennheiser MKE600 shotgun mic. Try not to drop that off screen here. Ordered the kit off of Amazon. Let's see what we got here. Microphone itself, no big deal. Little dead cat thing. And a long cable. And for some reason, a lens cleaning cloth. Not sure why that's going to be useful, but let's see what all we got here. I like getting things as kits when I don't know exactly what I want to accessorize with. Okay, looks like I've got a, drop that here, it's a cold shoe mount. Let me get that out of the packaging here. It's just a Ziploc bag, so let's do that. There we go. This looks like a cold shoe mount for the microphone. Looks like a shock isolate mount. These are nice. Takes a little bit of handling noise out. Looks like we've got a couple spare rubber bands for the front there. They probably have a technical name other than rubber band, but that will have to work. Nice. So you can mount it to a mic stand or a boom pole. Might be a little clunky on a camera, but there that is. Together for now. Nice. Side opening. All right. Okay. Get the good stuff. Nice little protective bag. It's got a little bit of padding to it. Not a whole lot, though. Might protect it from a stiff breeze. This is the important stuff. Microphone itself. My audio recorder has a nice preamp. Oh, it does have ability to be powered off of a battery. I must unscrew there, and then got a low cut. It's nice. A little wind muff to go over the front. In my experience, that might protect against a fan or HVAC or something, but it's not going to protect against a whole lot. Or if you're speaking, maybe plosives and stuff a little bit. Another mount for mounting it to, that's a 1/4 20, so that could go on to a like a camera stand. And I don't know why. I suppose if you're going directly into the camera, you could do that. You'd need the battery because this does require some kind of phantom power. I'm not sure whether that would impact quality or not if you're using an internal battery, but that's all what we expected. So now here. Yeah, there we go. That's what I couldn't get to happen earlier. There is room for a Looks like a AA battery. I won't be using that, but nice to know in a pinch. You could connect it to a camera. And this is the cable that I'll actually be using. Pardon for the loud noise. Let's see. Hey, a Ziploc bag that I can actually figure out how to open. Looks like a good cable. Good enough. Flexible. It's got the locking ends. That'll work great. Really quick, before we go out, I wanted to run over a few of the important specs that made me choose this microphone. First, it's got a cardioid pickup pattern. And if you don't speak microphone polar patterns, what that means is it's much more sensitive to the front of the microphone than it is to the sides. And that's what's going to help get rid of some of that ambient sound from around the preserve, I'm hoping. It's got a frequency response from 40 hertz on the low end to 20,000 hertz on the top end, and that's most of human hearing. I can't hear 20,000 hertz. And 40 hertz, there's probably about an octave to go below that, but nothing that I'm going to run into in nature, so this is perfect for that application. It does have a low cut filter that you can switch on that'll cut some of the low end and start the response even higher up, and that helps you deal with things if you don't have like a blimp or something to protect it, helps you get some of that low rumble from wind away from your recording. This microphone only has 15 decibels of self noise, which is really good. And self noise is just the noise inherent in its circuitry, and all of these condenser style microphones are going to have that, maybe all microphones in general, but don't quote me. And a lot of cheap microphones are a lot higher than that. And why it matters is most nature sounds are pretty quiet, and you're going to have to pull them up in post. Well, if you've got noisy preamps or noisy circuitry in the microphone itself, you're going to get a lot of hiss. I'm using a Zoom F3 recorder, which has pretty clean preamps, and the low self-noise of this microphone together should let me play a lot in post and not generate a hiss or other distracting noise. All right, let's take this thing outside and see how it does. In addition to the MKE 600, I have got this Movo blimp. So let me make sure I get that in shot, which I bought at the same time. So remember how it opens. There we go. So we're going to take the Sennheiser microphone. Take off its wind protection. I don't think it's going to help it any. There's a suspension system inside of this. Make sure our settings look okay. Go ahead and put the low cut on. Battery off. That ought to work. Snap it. There we go. That'll make it a lot easier. Slides out. Should clip in here. These little red clips secure the microphone. Hold it in the middle. So we've got a dead cat kind of covering the entirety of the blimp. In theory, we should get a lot less noise with this. That's plugged in. Clips on the bottom. Pass through for the cable there at the tail end. Cap goes back. Try not to knock it over here. Cap goes back. Dead wombat goes on. Like a lot of places anymore, civilization is not far from here. So, airplanes flying overhead and trucks going by on the road that's not too far away. So getting long, pristine audio is pretty challenging, if not impossible. I've been to some really remote places and you still run into it because airplanes fly over just about everywhere. So it's a challenge. What we hope for is getting, if I can get 30, 40 seconds of really clean audio and a couple bursts, usually I can stitch together what I need. So get this clipped in here. There we go. And then into the handy Zoom F3. I've already set up for phantom power, so we should be good to go. So I am talking into the MKE600. There's a little bit of wind, actually a decent amount of wind. I think we're getting 13 to 15 mile an hour winds today. I'm right next to a building, and it has a really loud, I think it's an HVAC system that I'm listening to. And through the headphones, I can't really hear it until I turn, but I'm going to do a test here so you can see the off-axis rejection of the microphone here and how it does in the wind and how it picks up sound when I actually turn it towards the building. So right at me, turning away, we're about 90 degrees off, we're about 180 degrees off. Starting to hear whatever that noise is. Turning to 90 again, and back to pointing at me. I think this thing is doing a pretty good job. Sounds like there's a woodpecker and maybe a couple other birds up here in this tree line. So go up here and see if I can't get a good recording of any of it. So I kept walking out of frame there. I'm used to having a second person with me when I'm going to be wandering around a lot, and I was shooting this solo and kind of forgot that the camera wasn't going to follow me. So instead of having you stare at a pretty empty frame and listening to bird sounds and the sounds of me walking around, I'm going to combine all of those where I walked out of the frame. I did it more than once, and we'll do a sample here at the end that combines all of that. In my experience, and it certainly was the case when I was shooting this, you don't get audio nonstop, so cutting it down probably is a little better way to consume it anyway. My thoughts after getting a chance to record with this out in the field is I've got some good news and bad news, and the bad news really doesn't have to do with the microphone. The good news is the mic sounds great. It is very directional. That really helped. Listening through my field headphones, it sounded much better than anything I've experienced out there to this point, and I'm super happy with that. The bad news is the wind really kind of started to die down while I was out there, and a blizzard came through last week and really flattened all the grass. And because it was all matted down, you don't get the cool sound of it waving back and forth and bumping into each other. So I really didn't get wind sounds. But again, to the good news, I did get a lot of bird sounds, and I think building a library of sound is a good idea when you're doing these kinds of projects, and I think it's going to be super useful. Change the camera angle here a little bit. And I'm going to walk behind me. There's some of the tall grass prairie, the actual tall grass, and see if I can't get a sound of this wind cutting through that grass a little bit or anything else that sounds interesting. Right behind the camera is a highway, the one that feeds into this property. So there's some noise up there, and we're getting closer to rush hour. So we'll see if we can get clean recording. This is, just listening to it, a pretty directional microphone, so hopefully this sounds really good. We'll go find out. Birds again. Let's see if we can get the birds. That wasn't too bad. Let's see if we can get a little closer. As I mentioned earlier, I kept on walking out of the shot. So again, instead of having you watch a lot of footage of me not in a shot and just listening to the sound, what I'm going to try to do here is kind of simulate what the project's going to look like at the end and combining all those different audio elements along with some visual stuff shot in the same space. So that's what it sounds like all put together, and that's kind of an example of what I'm building over the course of a year. I'm really happy with the microphone. I think it did a great job. I think it's going to be a good asset going forward. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. This is a relatively new channel, and having more subscribers helps more people see this and build the channel, and it's free. So if you liked it, please say so by liking and subscribing. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. Good luck in your art journey. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.